Someone who didn't get through this week, he didn't even finish the game, was Patrick Mahomes. And that's the first thing I want to talk about is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs who they've got a little bit of work to do if they want to make the playoffs this year, which I don't think too many people were saying that before the season started. You had a couple of hot takes, but this team is starting to look like a mess. They didn't even score a touchdown last week or this week, I suppose. And Patrick Mahomes, at times, people are saying, oh, well, he doesn't have this. He doesn't have a line. Sometimes this man just plays hero ball and is absolutely lost out there on the field trying to do too much. And that's what we saw yet again from Patrick Mahomes, who ended up taking a big shot near the end because he hung onto the ball for too long. And, man, Robert, I don't know how much of this game you got to watch, but to me, Patrick Mahomes looks like he needs to work things out there in Kansas City.
Well, I had Tennessee on the points. I had Kansas City to score under their point total, team total, and I had the first half under. So I was happy all the way across the board. So it was a win-win-win trifecta. You know, the Super Bowl curse continues. The Super Bowl loser has weird stuff happen in the season following it now, going on 6 seasons in a row, 7 seasons? I mean, it's getting – and people are like, well, that won't happen to Kansas City. It's Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. It's the Chiefs. Well, and here we are. And I have great respect for Andy Reid. All the gamblers in Vegas do, because he's one of the best spread cover NFL coaches in the history of the NFL. I think only Belichick and 1 or 2 other guys are ahead of him. But, you know, this will be his greatest test yet. I personally was never a huge fan of Mahomes coming out of college. I thought he was good, but I didn't think he would be as good as he turned out to be. So seeing some regression kind of makes sense to me. I think the big thing is one common denominator in these Super Bowl losers struggling is that defenses or sometimes offenses, but usually defenses, find something weak or vulnerable schematically in the opposing team's personnel or system. And, I mean, basically, Belichick ended Jared Goff's career before it could get going.
Yeah.
I mean, what he exposed in the Super Bowl, he still hasn't got. That's why he's in unhappy Detroit now. So maybe something that Tampa Bay did really expose some schematic issues with Kansas City. I don't know. I've been surprised. I was betting against them all year, but I've still been surprised at the scale at which they've fallen apart. And, I still think Mahomes has the kind of confidence and the kind of character to bounce back. But that was a scary performance, and it's been an ongoing set of issues. And so we'll get to see what he's really made of in the coming weeks and what Kansas City's made of in the coming weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean, with Mahomes, somebody I think is incredibly talented, and I don't think anyone can dispute his talent, and no one with a working brain would dispute his talent. I kind of look at it from the perspective of how much he was hyped from the media and how we've consistently heard he's the greatest of all time already. And I think that that's insanity, because one thing we always hear, like you look at the Brady thing, it's like, well, Brady's got a loaded team. Of course he's doing great. Well, Mahomes has had a loaded team, a loaded offense with a veteran coach who's been to multiple NFC championships in a row, including a Super Bowl. Like, Andy Reid is a great head coach that's seen a lot of success with different players at different times in his career. And so you walk into that situation, and I think Mahomes walked into a perfect situation with a veteran coach, with a great team, and he brought a hell of a lot of talent to the equation. And you saw that be maximized for a few years. And now, the league, the NFL almost always figures something out. The league will always figure out a scheme or somebody. You're not going to play. It's almost like the YouTube algorithm. You might configure that thing out for a little while, but at some point, YouTube's going to change it on you. And, you were getting 100,000 views before. Now you're getting 10, because that's how the YouTube algorithm, and that's how the NFL, it will always figure you out. So you'll play great for a few years. But then the big problem right now is Kansas City gave that ridiculous contract to Mahomes. And that's going to cripple the team for the future. It just is. You're not always going to have that top tier talent that you're having right now. And so I think that's going to hurt them for the long haul. For right now, I think the Chiefs are probably still going to make the playoffs, but man, they looked really bad. Mahomes is my fantasy quarterback, so from a fantasy perspective, he's doing really well for me. But yesterday, God, thank goodness for Jamar Chase yesterday, because man, Mahomes really stunk it up for me yesterday. It was at halftime, he had -1 point. in fantasy. It was so bad. But I think they're going to be fine. Have we heard the severity? Like, I know he took a hit yesterday.
He cleared concussion protocol. He
okay.
could have come back on the field, but they decided not to, which is probably the right call. To me, I think we're talking a lot about Andy Reid. You know, Robert, you talked about what a great cover guy Andy Reid has typically been in his career, but not with the Chiefs the past year and a half. When you look at like their last 16 or 20 games, they've only covered like 1 or 2 games. Like,
yeah, I've been betting against them that whole stretch because they got way overvalued.
They got way overvalued, and I think that overvalue, you see it in Vegas, but you're also seeing it, I think, obviously in the media with the press, and I think that got to them. I really do. I think you had Andy Reid, who had a controlled situation and ran an offense a certain way. You know, once he got Patrick Mahomes in there, unlocked all these other things he was able to do. But then Tyreek Hill starts getting all this attention. Then Travis Kelce starts getting all this attention. Patrick Mahomes feels like he's on top of the world because everybody's telling him he is. And I feel like now they just feel like they need to do all this stuff all the time, that they can do all these ridiculous things all the time. And when things aren't working just right, you start to see them fall in a hole. And it just gets worse and worse and worse because it's like, I'm Patrick Mahomes. I can throw across my body, no problem. I can escape this. This is what we do. They're also not doing it consistently anymore.
That offense works much better when they have a reliable run game. That's always been true of Andy Reid. So I think they've got a little bit away from Edwards-Helaire. I mean, of course, they let Kareem Hunt go because of the controversy. Now even though he's on the currently injured, but has been doing great stuff with the Browns. So I think they need to get back to that because Mahomes off the play action is where he is the best. And that only works when the run game is dominant. And when they got so caught up in all the crazy fun things they can do that they lost track of the bread and butter that they need to have a sustainable week in, week out offensive output.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that. And I like seeing these cracks in Kansas City. I think it makes for good. It makes for good football talk, and I think it makes for a better league when you start to see some parity and things like that. And these dominant teams coming down, people love to root against the people on top. We've seen that with Tom Brady for years. So with Kansas City like this, gives room for the Chargers and the Raiders now to do their thing. And it'll be interesting to see.
Credit to the Titans for all the gamblers out there. Remember that when a team loses to some winless team, like the Titans lost to the New York Jets, that's a good time to bet on the Titans because they've come to back-to-back upset victories against the Bills and the Chiefs, the supposed AFC favorites in back-to-back home games. So that's credit to the Titans to make a little run.
Yeah, and the Titans looked great yesterday. You can't deny that. And they didn't even really need a lot from Derrick Henry to do it, other than a touchdown pass.
Yeah. Oh man, like Derrick Henry. The Titans do. They look fantastic. I mean, I understand the reservations with Tannehill, but like, I mean, they just look like a well-oiled machine. And when you have Derrick Henry to take all of that attention off of other places, it allows you to maximize. But yeah, closing out on the Chiefs. Yeah, if I'm to make a prediction, it's hard for me to imagine them not making the playoffs this year. I know it's a possibility. And look, I didn't think they were going to be 3-4 at this point in the season either. It's not that Patrick Mahomes has played horrifically bad. He's been putting up really solid numbers, but what is it? 6 straight games now with an interception, I think is what it was. And
he's got like 9 or 10 interceptions on the season already, something like that.
And I mean, the key is, can he do what Tampa did last year, where they got off to a slow start, but at least we all knew why. I mean, that was Tom Brady with a new team, new scheme, new personnel. But, then they got on a roll last 6-7 weeks of the year, and then boom, rolled through the playoffs, road win after road win after road win. That's probably going to be the way they have to go if they're going to make it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just don't think that's going to happen this year. But playoffs, we're on the fence. I'm not going to be surprised if they don't. I watched that entire game yesterday. I watched it for fantasy purposes and because I'm a Derrick Henry fan, but I was shocked that they didn't get it turned around because I felt like, okay, well, by the third quarter, they're going to really start opening it up and they're going to make this a game. And they just never recovered ever. They never were able to figure it out. And that was really shocking to me. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I think that, the shine is wearing off of Patrick Mahomes just a little bit now.